Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Keeping Up With Conspicuous. Today, I am joined by the lovely Keith Atherton, who works at Capgemini, and as we've just established, the title is very long, but we're going to go with architect at Capgemini. So, Keith, thank you so much for joining us. It's so lovely to have you on. I know we know each other quite well now after a few meetings in person, so it's nice to have you on the pod.
Yeah, great to be here. Thanks, Lucy. Yeah, I've been a big fan of the show. I've caught up with most of them now. So yeah, great to be here. Thank you.
Well, no worries. So, obviously, I know a lot of people tuning in from my network will probably know your familiar face, but for those that may not know, let's give them a brief overview of who Keith is, where you've come from, and where you're now, where you're at now.
Yeah, good stuff. Yeah. So as you mentioned, my name's Keith Atherton. I'm an architect currently working for a large partner called Capgemini. So yeah, that's a really interesting role. And I've been working the Power Platform mostly for the last few years. That's been my main focus. Before that, most of my career has been more pro dev or pro code. Some people might refer to it as. So mostly as a .NET developer, lots of things like SQL Server, Oracle, database, and so on. So quite a mix over the years, but mostly around that tech stack and mostly in the Microsoft space, which is why when I moved towards using the Power Platform, it seemed quite a good fit.
Absolutely, and obviously, where you've come from is usually quite different in terms of the usual pathway into Power Platform. So I think how many years have you been doing Power Platform for now?
It's been 3 years now.
Which I'm still totally bamboozled at because I definitely feel like you've been doing it since the start. So hats off to you for getting such a good stamp on Power Platform. But obviously 3 years ago you made the transition, but you've come from a technical background. So what was it that really drew you in and thought, actually, no, that's where I want to be?
That's a really good question. I think so. It was 3 years ago, almost to the day. Actually, it was just a few weeks apart. But I joined a new job. It was a general developer, like most jobs were for me, and it was a case of, okay, you might be doing .NET this week, some Azure next week, and some Power Platform the next. It was a bit of a mix, and it was day one of this new job that they said, okay, we've got some clients who want some Power Apps. Can you learn these and build some for them? I was like, what's a Power App? I didn't know what that was. I had no idea. I'd heard of the Power Platform. I didn't know if that was the same thing. Is that the same as Power BI? I didn't know anything.
Yeah.
So I think with that job, having those projects to use them straight away, it forced me to have that steep learning curve. So it was one where I started using it, started trying to learn it, and then I was running before I could walk. I was getting things wrong, or not using best practices because I was still kind of finding my way with it. I remember my very first reaction, thought, well, low code, it's great, you can drag and drop, and it's quite straightforward to if you came from a non-technical background. But then
Yeah.
I felt like I was hitting a few barriers, like, oh, but I'm so used to just building that from scratch, or I can make the UI look any way I want it to look. And there were some things where I felt at the time, those first few weeks of I'm hitting limitations. And I think it was when I'd moved past those first few weeks and realized, oh no, you can customize this, or you can extend it with pro code, with those other skills that I have, and do other things. Actually, I can build things so much quicker, typically with a Power Platform, but I still do have a lot of control to change the look and feel and how it behaves if I need to. So then it kind of felt like a good fit of, I can get things to market very, very quick with this. And that's the appeal for me from the business side of things.
Right. Okay. Because I think it's super interesting because obviously I've had different guests from different backgrounds coming on. And in terms of, I know you sort of mentioned the low code area, and it's interesting because you've come from that development background, you're very hands on technical to then come into the low code side of things. Now, I've got traditional developers who are like, oh, low code. There's a need for it, but there is still, you still need more of the technical side of things from what they do. And then you've got people who have obviously come from no background into the low code side and obviously sing its praises. So it's just interesting to hear the different views, and obviously people are going to find their own benefits or cons to it, etc. But it's interesting to hear.
Totally agree. I think it's one of those that it felt like a good fit for me because I felt like I could get the best of both worlds, right? Could build things really quick, and if it's a standard basic to medium thing, we're done, or with a little bit of tweaks, we're done. We're there. We don't need more than that, and it's quick. Or as you say, if you need something with a bit more, complexity behind it, and I do need some of those skills, it felt like a kind of a good merging of both worlds for me, where I can use both of those if I need to. So then I thought, oh, this is quite a nice space, and also it's a great community as well. So it just helped me find my fit.
Yeah, 100%. And I think, it's such a big asset to a company to have someone who has the best of both worlds, as you put it. Like, you've got sort of that holistic mindset, I would say, because you're covering both areas. So it must be quite nice because you can sort of fit and tailor to different clientele, I guess.
Yeah, that's a really good point. In fact, I've had clients before as well where they've already got some incumbent systems, some legacy where they're already using a different database like SQL Server, but they want to use Power Apps. So instead of just build them from the ground up and have a greenfield project and say, okay, you've got the blank page, build us anything, we have had somewhere say, oh, could you fit around this infrastructure we already have? And again, I think that's when that pro dev background for me with the SQL Server and .NET says, oh, okay, well, yeah, we can actually combine the two. We can make a hybrid and fuse them together, rather than say, well, I only know low code and that's it. But then again, there'll be people in low code who are much smarter than me, who've really doubled down and are experts in that area. So yeah, maybe I'm medium with both. Who knows?
I'm sure you're not, but I do know what you mean. Some people really become the experts in that area, so it's just nice to have a good variety in a company. And obviously with yourself, so have you just been at Capgemini since doing Power Platform? Has your whole journey been within Capgemini for that side of things, or did you transition over?
Yeah, so I did transition over. I've been with a couple of partners before Capgemini. So really, yeah, I've worked for some really good companies like Quorum and A&S, and only recently started at Capgemini. But yeah, it's funny. It's many people I know from the community work here and have worked at the previous roles as well. Some people have changed roles since as well, and I've bumped back into them again at Capgemini. And yeah, I'd say the market's fairly healthy, and sometimes you see people move around. It's quite a small world.
Yeah, that it is. I definitely agree. Once you're part of that community, you sort of notice all the similar faces popping up here and there. But it's nice to have, and just that familiarity within the space I think is so nice. Now, what I wanted to discuss, because I know we've had a few Power Platform people come on the podcast, and you've probably noticed if you've watched them, which is lovely to hear, by the way. Thank you. But obviously, a lot of people can talk about the amazing benefits of Power Platform and what it can do and its powers within the Microsoft suite. And I know you'll completely agree that it is an amazing tool. But I kind of wanted to know from someone's perspective within this area, what have been the main challenges in Power Platform? Because I think not many people have mentioned it, and I think it will be quite interesting to know, what you guys have faced when learning or adopting it.
Well, it's all perfect, isn't it? There's no issues at all.
I'd love if tech was like that.
Yeah, that's right. Any tech, right? Yeah, no, that's a great question. I love that. I think, yeah, any stack I've come across, different issues, different, problems to solve for sure. Let me think. I think with the Power Platform, when I started, again, those first few weeks, I was really only hitting the basics. And again, I was kind of almost in the deep end, trying to build something straight away rather than say, hey, could you skill up in this? And then we'll start using it. So for me, I think early on was knowing what the art of the possible was. Okay, I've seen this thing, primarily Power Apps for me at that time. Moving from a pro code app developer to Power Apps was like my gateway in, and saying, okay, this is great. We can drag and drop things on there. But what if I want to create my own look and feel on a control? And I didn't know how that was possible. I didn't know how to do that. So early on, until I started to do that discovery and do a bit more upskilling, I was a bit concerned for myself of, I think I'm kind of stuck within this you kind of playground just with these Lego blocks that I have, and that's it. I can't go outside of there. So for me, that was an education piece to say, well, keep skilling up and learning, which helped that steep acceleration of the learning for me to know that, oh no, you can create your own custom controls. You can modify the look and feel, or you can do more complex things behind the scenes. So I think for me is getting that overview of what the capabilities are, pass through the barrier of the beginner starting point to what you can do with other tools like Azure and .NET as well. I think that was one of the big first personal things for me to move past.
Okay, and to be fair, I have heard that before. I think it was at one of the user groups, and I'll dive a bit deeper into that in a second. But in terms of how you overcame that learning step, what tools was it that you used that really helped excel and help build upon your skills there?
Yeah, that's a good one. I think for me, I was not far into learning, studying towards Microsoft certifications, taking the exams. So I think I passed 2 before starting with the Power Platform, and I was actually on a track learning Azure. I was doing some community sessions and presenting in Azure. So again, like the pro dev went into sort of learning cloud services. I was doing things with like Azure Bot Service and different Azure services, and I thought, oh, Azure would be the way I went, until I started that job, which said day one, 3 Power App projects, could you learn this new thing? So for me, studying for those exams and taking them was a really good place, because it meant that I needed to understand enough to be able to pass an exam in it, but also by going through the learning material, mostly Microsoft Learn, and then I would try and back it up with LinkedIn Learning. It's been a favorite of mine for years. And I was lucky enough to join that team later on as an instructor, is go through the learning, get hands-on, and also it's given me a good broad base where I'm less likely to have gaps in my knowledge. I know that when I'm learning Power Apps in the first place, I thought, right, I'll cherry pick that bit that I need, that bit and that bit. And that was fine to build that particular app. But I know when I take the exams, it's a way, well, you need to go through that full course of learning to be able to pass an exam, to say you know enough of this that you can pass it. And again, it gives me a thorough understanding of, well, I've learned all these things. I might not use this bit today. I might not need that for another year, but I'm aware of them. So if the time comes and you need to use that, I'll go back and refresh my memory and dig into it when I need to. So I think going for those exams has been a good way of upskilling me fast.
Absolutely. I know, yeah, once again, another controversial topic is always the certifications that I've had different people have different views on. Because it's, yeah, and I know I saw a LinkedIn post actually the other week about people messaging saying, "Oh, I can help you pass the exam. I'll do it for you." Da, 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 da. And it was very controversial. I didn't know that was a thing, but there we go. I know, yeah, as you said, it is constant learning. Of course, it's going to be beneficial. You've got everything in front of you. I like the fact you mentioned about the LinkedIn learning and sort of combining the two as well. I don't think anyone's actually mentioned that yet. I don't think so. Take note, viewers. Definitely combine the two. I know I'm gonna have to remember, and it's early in the morning, so for me to remember this is gonna be difficult. But I want to, because you've mentioned it, talk about the Microsoft certified trainer side of things. You know, I haven't heard of many of those. Well, I haven't had a guest on who is one. So what is that? How did you get there? What does it entail? Is it just dig a bit deeper into that?
Yeah, good stuff. So I've always loved helping others, and I think many of us who work in consulting have got that kind of kind of mindset and kind of empathy. Yeah. And one thing I've done over the years is help with training. So different companies I've worked at provided training courses, sometimes developed our own, or sometimes done some where we've tried to upskill people, get ready for their exams, or just to upskill them so they can actually use the platform, or others. I've done this with .NET before, and other technologies too. So it's always been a passion. It's always something that I've enjoyed, whether it be pre-record or live sessions. And I found that I was doing so much of it that I knew I wanted to improve in it. I was doing it the best way I could think of, and I saw other good instructors who inspired me. So, excuse me. But yeah, I did go to a really good in-person training course in London once. This was years ago now, maybe 10 years ago. And I remember the instructor was good, really knowledgeable, really approachable, which was really important to me, and just had this great kind of toolbox, of of things to pull from, of, again, this kind of breadth of experience where you could combine this with that. I know a bit about security, I know a bit about XYZ, and I thought, oh, that's really cool. It's really good if you want to design or architect systems, and it's great to help people as well. So I'd done some training, and then I became aware of this Microsoft certified trainer kind of grade that you could get, or MCT for short. So I got speaking to a few friends of mine who were more in the Azure space. So Gregor Sutty, he's a good friend of mine who's in MCT, and likewise, he's done some training. He's not a full-time trainer. Same for me. But there's a few things we said, oh yeah, there were some good benefits. You get a lot of materials to help you train others. Like Microsoft can provide, learning materials like slide decks and things like this. So if you put on a course, you can use theirs, or maybe modify theirs, or use theirs for inspiration. And I think there were some other benefits as well, a bit of a community and network around MCTs. But for me, the main one was really, can I upskill in this? Can I improve the way I teach others? I know there's going to be ways I can do this better. So one of the to become an MCT has changed a little over the years. There used to be fees to join, then they were changed. The different qualifications you need to join as well. So when I joined, let's see, just over a year ago, I needed to take a training course to be able to train others.
Nice.
I was going to go in circles with that one, but yeah, it was a really good course, and it was a way of again, using these different ways to train people that's going to be useful for them, ways where they can generate their own insights instead of telling them everything, sort of leading them towards the answer, let them figure it out themselves. And there was all these good tips and tricks that just kind of more than doubled my training skills. So yeah, it was worth it for the learning rather than the more letters after your name or whatever. It was just useful that I can now be a more effective trainer. So yeah, I'd highly recommend it for anyone who's interested in training.
Okay, no, it's just useful to know, and I know a lot of people who potentially don't know what those stepping stones would be to become it, or whatever it may be. It definitely helps. But obviously, with yourself, now you are a MCT. Is that something you adopt just in Capgemini to help within that, or is it something you do externally as well? How does it work from that front?
Yeah, a bit of a mix, actually. So yeah, when I first learned, I'd been, like I say, within jobs, I've done some training, provided training and written some courses. And then I think it was a couple of years ago, I noticed some LinkedIn learning instructors. I was just looking into people providing those courses online. And again, I reached out to my network. I knew a couple of people who were doing that. So I just asked them a bit about the experience, what it was like, did they enjoy it? And so I, through them, connected with LinkedIn Learning, I should say, had a conversation, just said, look, are they looking for new instructors? The timing was perfect. They were at that time. They were looking for people to become instructors, to create training courses, to get people ready for Microsoft exams. I was like, I've just taken a few. And so we went through the list. Some of their priorities were ones that I'd recently taken. I think it was just a good timing thing. So, and I'd been a fan of LinkedIn Learning for a few years. I'd been like a paying subscriber for maybe 3 or more years already. So I thought, yeah, we talked about the process. I checked who I was working for at the time. Is this okay? I do this side thing, and they were happy with that. They were supportive, and so yeah, we just looked into it more. Went through exactly how would it work, what the milestones are, when it would be delivered. Yeah, I've managed to publish 2 courses on LinkedIn Learning, both for Microsoft exam
Wow.
prep as well. But yeah, it was a good experience.
Ah, well, are they still live on LinkedIn? Like, can you access them on LinkedIn still?
Yeah, you can. So one is quite on brand for me. It's the PL400, which is the Power Platform developer. Again, combining the Power Platform with the development skills, whether it be JavaScript or Azure extensions and things. So that was like an overview course for about 3 hours. And the other one I did was one part of a 4-part course for DP900, which is the Azure Data Fundamentals. And I took one of those there for the it was the NoSQL offerings that they've got.
Oh, wow. Well, we'll definitely have to link it in the comments so people can take a look if they're interested. I have no idea how you juggle doing everything you do, because obviously you've got your full-time job, you have all of this on top where you're creating such, beneficial things for the community, but also mentioning community, you are one of the most involved, approachable people I've met in the community so far. And I know you're a big advocate for the community side, aren't you?
I do love it, and thanks for that. I appreciate the words, the kind words there, and I always do. There's so many people who've helped me in the community. It's not why I'm doing it just to pay it back. It's just who I am. But it is great to feel that I can give some back. Some of it might be LinkedIn, where hey, you know what, there is some monetary benefit as well as I'm providing a course. Versus people like yourself and myself who run podcasts and things like this, who we don't make any money. It might cost money and time and effort, but we love doing it. We get to meet so many
Yeah.
awesome people. So it's that's where the benefit comes in for me. So yeah, I do like mentoring others as well, and seeing where we can help each other. So yeah, it's cool.
It is good. It is good. And as you said, you meet so many faces doing it. And then when you do go to the in-person events, like I remember the first time I met you, I'd obviously seen you on LinkedIn and probably spoke to you on LinkedIn, I think, before. And then you see each other in person, but it's like you already know each other.
Yeah.
Even if you do, win the Lego ahead of me, and I get sympathy
Oh,
there, but that's okay.
did I win?
Not that
Oh,
I'm
did I win a Lego set? I can't remember that. Let me think. Oh yeah, that was
not that
it.
I'm
But
sour about it.
do you still have the beer? I'm just checking in.
I think I gave it to my nephew, because I already have about 4 of them laying around. I love Bill and Sanjay, and I always end up getting another teddy bear. Um, just not the Lego sets, but I'll let you off this time.
Maybe next time.
But yeah, maybe we'll see. I know because you're going to the user group all day one on or when tomorrow.
Tomorrow. Crikey,
Uh,
yeah, that's it.
yeah. So you'll be there. So obviously that will be really good. I know people will be catching your sessions, so that will be amazing. Now I know I was going to go on about this. What I mean, my brain. I was going to say something that I wanted to link back to, and I've got it. I
The
have
the
got it.
beer's distracted you. Yeah. Thinking
The bear
about
has
just
distracted me. I get
just the
really
flashbacks.
riled up,
Yeah, just the shiver. Yeah.
really upset. Yeah.
Sorry about that. Yeah.
It's all right. But I wanted to go a little bit more back to the challenges Power Platform. And
Mm.
one thing that did this, how it's all linked back to the user group, as to where I heard, I think it was like, I don't know if you were sat watching it, but it was the panel with James Connolly, who else was there? Dave Scally, and a really lovely lady. Her name has slipped my mind. But anyway, they were doing a Power Platform panel. It's a lot of P's. And there was someone in the audience when they were asking questions. And I thought it was quite relevant. And I think this maybe has been a challenge which is overcoming it a little bit. where they say that the training for Power Platform is very specialized and basic to just Power Platform, and it doesn't end up tailoring to different industries, and that's what some people can struggle with. I know from an end user perspective, for speaking for myself, and like the user adoption, how friendly it can be to people from someone who isn't working in a consultancy dealing with it every single day. Do you feel like it's still hard for those, maybe from an end user perspective, who really need it to be specialized within their industry? Is there ways around that nowadays?
That's an interesting one. I see what you mean, because again, I came from the technical background going in, but I was lucky that even though it's been around, say, 3 years for me, I knew so much of that pro dev background just transferred across. 80-90% of what I do now was really from those years of experience using those other tech stacks. And the way you'd build a data model or security model was just translated almost directly across from there to, you have a different toolbox, but you're doing the same things. So yeah, as you say, I kind of have that different background, but I've seen other people who try to learn it from a non-technical background, and some have really taken to it. And I think it's maybe just they've got this, you like yourself, really smart people. Work in progress, right? You'll get there. You'll get there. I think some people like really understand like the logical side of things and have an analytical mindset. So, a friend of mine, Matthew Devaney, he used to be an accountant. He's used to logic. He's used to formulas. He's taken to it, and he's a rock star in the field. Really well known, great blog, and it just feels like he's naturally moved across and made it his own. He's now brilliant at what he does. So I think the kind of mindset you have might help. It may be that if it's brand new, a lot of us with these tech stacks is, okay, how do you get started? Where's your entry point? How much do I need to learn before I get hands-on? So I do like with things like Canvas apps and things, the Power Apps, you can drag and drop and kind of build things. But also sometimes it's that standing back, like you mentioned, say, well, what are all the capabilities and how do I start with that? I remember when I started, there was a few courses there. I don't know if they're still on, like App in a Day or Power BI Report in a Day, with these things where you can say, okay, dedicate a good few hours today, walk through step by step to build something, and then it gets you up and running. Yeah. Some people find that useful. Some people find, well, it's a bit too much of a contrived example. It's not matching real world, what the real world, like you mentioned there, the real world, what that industry would have. It's really just kind of like a showpiece. So I've heard, the full range of useful, not useful. But I think, yeah, any of those things, even Microsoft Learn, step by step, walking through things to get hands-on. And again, there may be good courses on LinkedIn Learning and other places where, hey, for starters, for beginners, here's how you get up and running. So it's kind of a tricky one. I think it might depend on your background of, like, do you have any technical skills at all? Or, do you dabble with coding in your spare time? You might transition a bit easier to beginner to medium level. Or are you completely non-technical and you just need that helping hand? And maybe one of those App in a Day or something like that might help.
Absolutely. I think, yeah, it would be way too hard for Microsoft to sort of be able to tailor it to every specific industry. I do think that maybe in the future of Power Platform, where the community is growing so much, I think this got mentioned at the user group, but for those that may feel as though you're part of an end user in a specific industry and finding it hard to overcome certain barriers to making it very specialized to what you do, join groups. I think there's a lot of groups now that are very tailored to different industries, and you can speak to people in the same boat as you. But I think that's a real growing part of Power Platform, which is, yeah, really nice. And I think that's going to continue in the future of Power Platform. So, keep an eye out, connect with people in the field or industry you're within, get talking, get a WhatsApp community or just a group page or LinkedIn going. If there's not one for you, I think the main advice would be just create it, get it going, add people in. I think that's going to be a good way forwards.
I think so too, and there are some good WhatsApp group chats at the moment as well. There might be more generic of Power Apps help, Power BI help. There are some out there where you can dip in, ask questions, and you might get experts or even people like me who they can kind of chip in with a bit of help and try and guide them the right way, or say, well, try posting this on the forum, or hey, have you tried this? Have you tried that? And you're going to get a lot of diverse perspectives. Another thing I've heard very good things about as well is the Microsoft Power Up program. So a few friends of ours, Charlie Phipps Bennett, Rory Neary, and others have actually worked on building some of the materials and some of that course. And that Power Up course is designed for career switchers. So again, the people you might be completely non-technical, but you want to move towards the Power Platform. It's a way of skilling you up on kind of a structured learning path, and also you're going to be able to network with others on the course, so you can help each other as well. I do know other people who've taken that course and spoken very highly of it, so that's another option as well.
Perfect. Well, yeah, I mean, if you ask for help, people are going to give it. I mean, a couple of days ago, I think I was posting around what I needed help with because I literally was stumbling at probably one of the first hurdles. But, posted on LinkedIn, people commented straight away to be like, nope, this is what you need to change or what you're doing wrong. They just help, So I think it's super important. And obviously, if we missed any comments, because me and Keith definitely could just talk and talk for hours, so we definitely missed them, but we'll go back to them at the end.
Absolutely.
Keith, if you would sort of wrap up and say maybe what you think is going to happen in the future of Power Platform, or any last comments, what would it be?
Yeah, well, firstly, just thanks again for having me on. I've always loved the Conspicuous videos. So yeah, keep up the great work. Really hope you do. And you get so many great guests on. I'm just privileged to be one of those. So thank you.
Anytime.
I think in terms of the future of the platform, I think that as well as many other platforms, AI is really, did we almost go a whole session without saying Copilot?
We almost did. You've just ruined it at the last minute.
Can we censor that? Can we bleep that part out? No,
Yeah.
okay. So I think the way that's coming in, there are a lot of features right there with the Power Platform, and that might be AI like it might be kind of co-pilots that help the maker side of things. So could you build me a Power Automate Cloud Flow that does X, Y, Z, and it actually builds it for us? Same with apps, same with many other parts. You can even use Copilot to build a custom Copilot as well, or an agent is a common term these days. But also AI, so it's user facing as well. So providing one when the user's using the app, I want to use this chatbot to ask questions about my data as well. So I can see that they're actually just building more and more. It seems it's not every month, but it seems every month, there's a new thing coming out or a development with it. Exactly, that's a good point. It's another thing to try and keep up with, right? It's constantly evolving. So I think AI, whether it be the plan designer or ways of building the solutions, is going to keep growing. But I can see it mostly for good. It's going to help people, and maybe help those people new to the platform, like you mentioned as well. Say, well, look, I don't know about the full clicking and dragging of how to name my apps and how to, which moving parts I need. But maybe by using this Copilot or some feature like that to help build me the starting point, and then I can start to pick apart all the things it's built for me and how it's made up. So it could be that, or it helps them build that solution that they need. So I think AI would be a big part. And then hopefully more on the governance side is another part of, I've dealt with some organizations where they've started to learn Power Apps. They don't have many senior skills in-house, but then it's become a bit of a wild west where people are building apps everywhere. They're not policed, they're not controlled. They might be going to data sources they may not want them to go to, whether it's internal organization or feeding it to personal Google Drives or whatever the case may be. Yeah. So I think, yes, some more improvements in that area just to keep safe boundaries. So when people do make things, they're not worried they're doing the wrong thing. I think it would be nice to see more of that.
Absolutely. And I think that ties quite nicely. The other week, I've had a couple of security specialists within AI, etc., coming on board and speaking about that. So definitely refer back to them as well to see what they think the future of all of this is as well. But Keith, honestly, thank you so much for coming on. You haven't got away with the last question though. If you're an avid watcher of Keeping Up with Conspicuous, you would have prepared for this. But if you were not Keith Atherton, the long titled architect at Capgemini, who and what would you be? And it's not allowed to be in IT.
Oh, not in IT. Let's see.
Sorry.
Such a good question. Yeah, and so many options as well. I'm trying to think. There's so many have got links to IT that it's kind of scuppered a lot of my my thoughts here. I think, yeah, there's so many to think of, but I think there's so many kind of entrepreneurs out there that do a lot of philanthropy, do a lot for good. You know, whether it be like the Warren Buffetts of this world and people like that, where they're using their wealth and they're using their time and effort to try and help others. Bill Gates would have been the go-to, but he's got the IT connection, so I can't use him. But
True.
I think someone like, yeah, darn it. But I think someone like that who, really authentically feels like they're trying to do good for other people and make the world a better place and help people. That's someone I feel I could relate to very well.
I like that. I really like that. I was going to ruin it and be like, oh, you could be like a Lego builder or something, but you've just given a really nice answer. So now I feel bad.
Wait a minute now. Can I change my mind? Yeah.
No, but honestly, Keith, thank you so much. Thank you for everything you do for the community as well. Keep doing what you're doing. Honestly, it's great to see you out there. You will catch him at community events and doing amazing sessions. I'm sure if you've got any questions, Keith would also be, I'm speaking on behalf, but hopefully happy to answer any questions people have.
Always. Yeah, always happy to help. Yeah.
Perfect. All right. Well, Keith, have a lovely rest of your day. Thank you so much for joining, and we will speak soon.
Speak soon. Thanks again, Lucy. Have a good one.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.